Happens to be the same book, so I didn't have to take my book home or pick up a new book. This is the Rebbe's Shavuos Mimer from Tafshin Yud Gimel, 1953. Now, it's interesting because it's the third of 3 Maimarim, even though you obviously can learn them separately, and that's why we're learning this one separately, because if we couldn't do that, we wouldn't do that, right? There's a Maimer that the Rebbe said, Mevarchin Chodesh Sivan. That's called Kisavay La'aretz. There's a Maimer that the Rebbe said on the first day of Shavuos. That's called B'Shash Hikdimu Yisrael Naseh L'Nishma. Right, that the Rebbe said early in the morning, the first day. And then there's the Maimer that the Rebbe said on the second day of Shavuos. That's this. Vayidaber Lakim is called Dvar Me'ila Leima. So this Maimer generally discusses the Indian of Dibur and Amira, speech. Now, there's a bunch of stuff we're going to have to go through before that in order to get there. I was going to ask some questions, then explain a particular Indian, and then go back to answer the questions. The Indian the Rebbe is going to explain is the Indian of Deimim Tzemei Chai Medaber, right? Which generally is translated mineral, vegetable, animal, and human life. Right? So the Rebbe is going to explain those 4 levels, but he's going to explain it in terms of the world, he's going to explain it in terms of people, and he's going to explain it in terms of Torah. And based on that, we're going to see what Amira and Dibur is all about. That's the basic point. Okay, so it's interesting because this Maimer is all about Dibur and Amira, speech, and 2 different languages for speech. The previous Maimer is all about shtika, silence. The Maimer the Rebbe said the day before.
Wow.
Keser, which is silence, but they both end up in the same place. Okay. It's not edited. It's a non-edited Maimer. There is that the discussion of Deimim Chai Tzemech Medaber, Deimim Tzemech Chai Medaber, I'm sorry, the mineral life, vegetable life, etc. So there is a discussion of that in L'chutei Sichos, so obviously that means it's edited. In L'chutei Sichos Chelek Vav, the Shavuos Maimer. Actually, I'm sorry, Parshas Yisro, the Parshas Yisro Maimer. In Chelek Vav of L'chutei Sichos, talks a lot about some of the things that are talked about here. And that is edited, because L'chutei Sichos is edited. And a lot of this is based on a Maimer the Rebbe Rashab said in Tafresh Ayin Hey. Okay. Vayidaber Elokim is called as Kol Advar Me'ila Lemor. God said all these things. That's the introduction to the Immerse of the verse. According to Rashi, it's not exactly an introduction. According to Rashi, it's actually a statement of fact. It's a narrative that God said all these things already. And Rashi says this teaches that God said the Immerse Dibur in one Dibur. He said all 10 things at once. That's the first pasuk, because it doesn't. The usual pasuk as an introduction to someone speaking. Usually, obviously, it's a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the Torah. It says Vayidaber Shem El Moshe Lemor. Kadosh Baruch Hu spoke to Moshe, to Avram, or Avram spoke to Sarah, or whatever it happens to be. Here, it doesn't say to whom Kadosh Baruch Hu is speaking. It just says God said all these things. So Rashi explains, based on the Medrash, that the pasuk is actually a narrative. God said all these things. It means exactly what it says. It's not, so to speak, choreography. Who is speaking to whom? And then the next pasuk is the beginning of the content. Right? Rashi says the pshat in this pasuk is God said everything in this pasuk. Then Rashi asks, if so, then why the next psukim, which is just a repetition of this pasuk? Oh, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu said them all at once. That's the first pasuk. And then the Kadosh Baruch Hu said each one of them individually and independently. So obviously you have to figure out why in the world the Kadosh Baruch Hu did that, but that's not our issue in this Maimer. But that is a fascinating Rashi and certainly has to be learned. Vayidaber Elokim es kol advar me'ila lemor. Now you notice there's the word Vayidaber and lemor, Dibur and Amira. And what is it that the Kadosh Baruch Hu said? Well, what's the first of the Aseret Dibros? Anechi v'Elokecho asher tzeisecho mi'eretz Mitzrayim. I am Yud Kei Vav Kei Elokecho. Asher hotzeisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim, that I took you out of Eretz Mitzrayim, mibeis avodim, from a house of bondage, house of slaves. Okay. So the Rebbe is going to ask 3 questions about this pasuk. The tzarich lahav, you have to understand. Mashakos lemor, that which it says lemor. Vayidaber Elokim es kol advarim ha'ela lemor. God said all these things. Do you mind if I put on the air, Doc? It's very hot.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
agree.
hot and
Yes, thank you for asking that.
I don't know how you do it exactly. Let's see.
Oh, you're good.
On, off. 20 is pretty cool. Let's see.
You get 21.
In our house, we did 22. That's because we're paying.
Right, sure.
Someone else is paying here, so we can do 21. There's a person on. I hope that they're more comfortable now because we put on the air. Okay, I hope they are. Okay. So the word lemor in this pasuk causes all sorts of problems for all of the mefarshim. Why? So first let's see what the Rebbe says and then we'll explain it more. Right, tzarich lahav, ma'u shenemar lemor. Dihine, b'kol makom shenemar lemor. When it says lemor in the Chumash, the most common pasuk in the Torah is Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe lemor.
Yeah.
Happened 69 times, evidently. I did not count, but someone who is good at this one said it in a class I was in, and I said, okay, Mr. He's right. 69 times it says Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. Now, what does that mean? Usually it's translated rather poorly. Usually it's translated, God spoke to Moses saying. That's not what it means. The word lemor is an infinitive, and it means God said to Moshe to say. In other words, the Kadosh Baruch Hu spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu to say to us what it is that the Kadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu. So the lemor is to say to someone else. God spoke to me to say to you. That's pshat in lemor. So then this lemor doesn't make any sense. Why? Right? I scared them away when I told them we put on the air. They disappeared. That's what I think. Okay. I wonder who these people are. At 7:30 in the morning, they're like looking at YouTube and they show up for 4 minutes and then I think, who are these people? I just wonder if, maybe on the West Coast in America it's 9:30 at night, but who are they? Whatever. They could be in Australia. But tzarich lahav, mashkos of lemor. Dinei b'kol makom shenemar lemor, hakavana hi shemeshe yagid zeh liYisrael. Right? That Moshe should tell this to the Jewish people. Shaloi shamu, that they didn't hear it. Most of the Torah, Am Yisrael didn't hear it. Moshe Rabbeinu was hearing it on Har Sinai, and the Eibusher says to Moshe, okay, tell the Jews this, tell the Jews this, tell the Jews this. Daber al b'nei Yisrael v'amart aleim. Right? It says that all the time. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. Kadosh Baruch Hu spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu to say, Daber al b'nei Yisrael v'amart aleim. Speak to the Jewish people and tell them as follows. Okay. So that's what the word lemor means. So what's the problem here? Aval b'shas Matan Torah, the time of Matan Torah, shekol Yisrael hayu b'mayim Har Sinai. All the Jews were there. All the Jews were at Har Sinai. So who's Moshe going to say it to? V'shamu me'akadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzma. They heard from the Kadosh Baruch Hu themselves as the Dibros. They heard Matan Torah from the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Im kain, if so, eino muvan. It's not understood. Mahu lemor. What's pshat lemor? What's this word lemor? Who's Moshe supposed to say it to? Now Rashi, interesting enough, is bothered by this problem and says, Melamed sha'amar al hein v'al lav. There's a medrash in the Mechilta, so it's a machlekes Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva. But evidently, what does it mean? Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe, Vayidaber Elokim es kol advarim ha'ela lemor. That God said all these things to say. Who's supposed to say? That we, after each of the Dibros, said yes on a positive commandment or no on a negative commandment. Meaning the word lemor is bothering everybody. What's Lamor doing here? So in Pshat, the Medrash says that the Eibishter said it and we answered. So we were Lamoring in response to Vayidaber Elokim. Okay. But everybody's bothered by the problem. So that's what the Rebbe is asking here. Shari Gamla Dasim Mefarshim, even according to those Mefarshim, which is pretty simple Pshat in the Chumash, the Klolas of Dibris, that the basic Dibris Shamu Yisrael al Yedei Moshe, that most of the Dibris Am Yisrael heard through Moshe, right? Because we said, and this is brought by Rashi and Chumash, and also in Chassidus, that after the first Dibris, we said to Moshe, look, we can't take it. You listen and tell us. Okay, so then relative to the last 8 Dibris, at least you could say it's relevant to say Lamor. Even according to that position, Mikol Mokim, nevertheless, Hine, base of Dibris Rishonis, the first 2 Dibris, and Neichin Lo Yelcha, Kulam Meidim, everybody agrees, Sheshamu Kol Yisrael Mipi Agvura, that all of the Jews heard that from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's not relevant to say Lamor about the whole thing. Kedisa b'Gemara, famous Gemara in Makis. Al Pasuk, the Gemara asks, how do we know there's 613 mitzvahs? So how do we know? So it says, Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Moshe commanded us Torah. Right? Torah is b'Gematria Taf Reish Yud Aleph. Torah is Gematria 611. So Moshe commanded us 611 mitzvahs. But Anechi and Lo Yelecha, that we heard from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. That we heard from HaKadosh. So Moshe only told us 611. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us the first 2. And that which it says Lamar, Kai Gam Al Beis Dibros Rishonos. It's also talking about the first 2 Dibros, right? It says God said all these things, Lamar. So it says all of them. Shari Tevas Lamar Kodim Anechi. The word Lamar is before the verses Anechi V'lo Yelecha. So obviously the Lamar is relevant to them also. But according to that position, minimally we heard at least those 2. And the word Lamar is not relevant because everybody heard. Say, maybe it's to the generations, but we can't say that either. Right? But even according to those people who say that we heard most of the Dibros from Moshe Rabbeinu, who heard it from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the first 2 aren't included. Im Kain, in a move, and if so, it's not understood. Mawa Kavona, what's the intention? B'Tevis Lamar. The word Lamar, what does it mean? Me'acha shebeis Dibros Rishonos, the first 2 Dibros, I'll call upon him at least. Shamu Kol Yisrael Mipi Agvura Batzman. We heard from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the word Lamar is not relevant to them. And the word Lamar is right before them. Ve'ein Lamar, and you can't say that the answer to the question is as follows. Shakavana, the intention, B'Tevis Lamar, and the word Lamar, he is Shemesha Yagid L'Deres Habayim, that Moshe should tell the generations that are coming, the people who are not at Matan Torah. Why? Shahare, Isa B'Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, there is in the famous Medrash Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, Shekol Yisrael, all of the Jewish people, Oisam shall know those that were already born, V'oisam shasidim la'ivaled, and those that in the future will be born, Kulam hayu b'shas Matan Torah, we're all at Matan Torah. So there wasn't a Jew that not at Matan Torah. So then what's the Lamar? Who's Moshe supposed to say it to? There's no one to say it to. So it can't mean what Lamar usually means, which is God spoke to Moshe to say to us. Can't mean that, because we were all there. So what's the word Lamar? That's the first question. Im Kain, Sarach Lahavin, Moshe Lamar, Lamar. Therefore, I have to understand what's Pshat in Lamar. Now, that's a question that's asked by everybody in every different context. Chassidus, Pshat, everybody asks, what's Pshat in the word Lamar? Okay, second question, there's going to be 2 more. V'od tzarich lahavin. We also have to understand. Mahu, what's this? Arichas halashon. This long language seems to be superfluous words. Anochi avai Elokecha. I am Yudke Vavke Elokecha. Why does it have to say that? The L'chora, at first glance, Lo Yatzarach Lemar Kol Agimul L'Shenis, didn't have to say all three different expressions of Anochi, Avaya, and Elokecha. What could it have said? V'haya must speak Sheyemar, and it would be certainly reasonable simply to say, Anochi Asher Tzeichim Eretz Yisrael. I'm the one that took you out of Mitzrayim. Why does it say Anochi Avaya Elokecha that took you out of Mitzrayim? Why does it say that? God's speaking. So just say Anochi, I took you out of Mitzrayim. What's Avaya? What's Elokecha? And why is it there? That's the second question. Third question, V'oid, Tzarich lahavin, we also have to understand, Ma shenemar, mi eretz Mitzrayim, mi beis avadim. The Pasuk says, Anochi v'elokecha, asher tzeichicha mi eretz Mitzrayim, mi beis avadim. Why does it say mi eretz Mitzrayim, mi beis avadim? Why does it say both? Now really, the Rebbe is going to ask, why does it say eretz Mitzrayim? First of all, everybody knows that. But what's really important is mi beis avadim. Meaning I took you from a place of servitude to Parai, and I took you into my servitude. And the whole purpose of taking you out is that you should be my avodim, and not his avodim. So it should simply say, we just cut the pasuk in half now. Anochi v'elokecha, Anochi asher tzeichicha mi beis avodim. I'm the one that took you out of a house of bondage. Why? In order to be in servitude to me. Matan Torah. So why all these extra words? Avaya Elokecha at the beginning, Eretz Mitzrayim at the end. Rabbi says, Ma shenemar me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeis avadim. The lama leila meimar. Why is there to him to say beis l'shenis? These two different expressions, Eretz Mitzrayim and beis avadim. Just say one. V'haya must speak, it would be sufficient, Sheyemar, that he'd say, Asher tzeichicha mi beis avadim. I took you out of a house of bondage. Why? Dine close the basic idea, Masha mazkir kan, Yitzias Mitzrayim. That which Yitzias Mitzrayim is mentioned here, which itself is a question. Why is the Kodesh Baruch Hu talking about the fact that he took us out of Mitzrayim? Why is he even saying this now? Okay, that question the Rebbe is not asking. That Rashi does. Rashi asks that question. All the Mefarshim ask that question. When the Kodesh Baruch Hu is saying, why is he saying that? First of all, they know that. I mean, what do they think? When were they born, these people? Yesterday? I mean, they watched the Kodesh Baruch Hu take them out of Mitzrayim. Second of all, if the Kodesh Baruch Hu, for whatever reason, has to introduce himself, which itself is hard to understand, why does he have to introduce himself? Because they've seen him do all these miracles for the last year. Right? But that being said, so he has to introduce himself. So if a Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to introduce himself, what should he say about himself? Hello, I'm God. Created the world. Why does he say Mitzrayim? Like, what's more impressive, creating the world, taking us out of Mitzrayim? Now, obviously, the only reason he can take us out of Mitzrayim is because he created the world. It's his ball, and he can do whatever he wants. Okay. So that's a basic question. Now, the Rebbe's not asking that question. The Rebbe's taking that for granted. Okay. There's going to be a pasuk that says, I took you out of Mitzrayim, for whatever reason. Now, what's the whole, well, I mean, we don't want it to say Mitzrayim, we want it to say mi beis avadim, because what's the whole idea? The whole idea is to say that I took you from one state of bondage into a new state of bondage, but this is bondage not to some fleshly king who's an idiot, but to Melech Malchei Elohim, Kodesh Baruch Hu.
Is the question, is he saying that, why does it bother saying, I took you out of,
No, that the Rebbe is not talking about. He wants to know why, if you're going to say that you took them out of bondage, so why do you say from the land of Egypt a house of bondage? Why don't you just say house of bondage? Because the Rebbe is going to say, right? As he said, Dehine, 5 lines, including that last little word. Dehine, klola se'inyu. The basic idea, Masha mazkir kan Yitzias Mitzrayim, The basic idea that Yetzias Mitzrayim is even mentioned here, because, I mean, that, again, the Rebbe's not really dealing with that question, but that is a major question. Why is the Yeshiva mentioning Yetzias Mitzrayim B'chlal? I'm the God that took you out of Mitzrayim. Boker Tov. I mean, who do I think you are? Now, Rashi has 3 perushim on that. The first one is that Kedai shu mishuabadim li. You should be mishuabad to me because I took you out. Oh, so that's basically what the Rebbe is talking about here. In other words, the whole purpose of taking you out was that you should be mishuabad to me here. You should be subservient to me now. Okay. The other 2 Rashis show that the second one says that I'm the same God that appeared on the Yam, even though on the Yam I looked like a warrior, and here I look like a Zokin Malay Rachamim. I look like someone full of mercy. So you might think that there's two different me's. No, it's Anochi, it's not a Nachnu. It's not we, it's I. It's all the same. That warrior at Kriyas Yom Suf and that seemingly loving father at Matan Torah were all the same. Which itself is really fascinating. In other words, revelation is what we talked about in the previous mimer. Revelation might confuse me. I can come to stupid conclusions based on... Here I am, I'm seeing revelations, but I might actually think there's 2 gods because I saw a revelation in one guy's once, and I saw him reveal himself in another way at another time. So I could make a terrible mistake. So there's a subtitle to it all, and the subtitle is I, not we. That's the second shot in Rashi. The third shot in Rashi is even wilder. Rashi says, since the voice at Matan Torah was coming from 4 directions and up and down, they might think there's 6 different deities that are speaking to them. Because the voice is coming from all sorts of places. So there must be 6 gods. Here you are having this incredibly powerful revelation, and you can misconstrue it and come to an absolutely ridiculous conclusion. Okay. Why? Well, because in all fairness, that's what they were experiencing. They were experiencing the voice coming from over there and over there and over there and over there and up there and down there. How many beings are talking? But so they might think 6.
But maybe this isn't my own, but it's the same voice. I mean, wouldn't we appreciate the same voice?
Okay, but evidently this mistake could be made to such an extent that the Kadosh Baruch Hu says Anochi as opposed to Anachnu. But what's bothering Rashi with all these pshatim? Why is the Kadosh Baruch Hu even saying this? Why is he saying I'm God? Boker Tov, of course you know you're God. Who do we think you are? Who do you think's been doing all these miracles? Who split the sea? Who did all the makkahs? I mean, why in the world do we have any problem with this? So the first answer is I'm telling you this because I want you to be enslaved to me. The second 2 answers are because the experience you're happening might be misconstrued. So I want to make sure there's a subtitle that explains the experience. Okay. But Rashi's bothered by the problem. Right? What the Rebbe is dealing with here is the essential problem. Now, the Rebbe is not so much dealing with why the verse is there at all, even though he's going to mention that now. He's dealing with the words in the verse. Why does it say Anochi v'alokecha? Why doesn't it just say Anochi? I took you out. And why does it say Egypt and a house of bondage? Just say house of bondage. Because as the Rebbe is about to say, the basic idea that God mentions Yetzias Mitzrayim now, which itself is a question, why is he talking about this? Hu Kamesha Amri Rizal is based on that which Chazal say in the Medrash in Shmeis Rabbah, that what? Al Manas Kein Hotzei Sicha. For this purpose I took you out. Shekidei, in order, shetekablu alakuzi, you'll accept my mastery.
My what?
My mastery, my godliness. But my power. Right? So it's all about you being my Eved. So then why does it say Eretz Mitzrayim? Aval Eina Muvan. It's not understood. Masha Maskir Kan Eretz Mitzrayim. Why does it say Eretz Mitzrayim? What difference does it make where they came from? They came from a house of bondage. That's what matters. Shari Ikerhu, the essential point is, Humasher Tzisicha Mi Beis Avodim, that I took you out of a house of bondage. Why? Kadesh Tekabla Lakusi, that you'll accept my power and my lordship. There's a better word right now. Aval Mahu and Nafkamina, right? What difference does it make? Ima base of Vadim, if this house of bondage, Haya Beres Mitzrayim, was in Mitzrayim, but Makamachir, somewhere else. It doesn't make. The ikar is, I took you out of one state of bondage, so you'll accept my rulership, my sovereignty. So what does it mean where you were? I mean, it's very important to know that you were in a base of Vadim, because that's exactly the point. I'm taking you out of one state to bring you into another state. And don't think I can't do that. And you saw my power, etc. What does it make of Zeres Mitzrayim? Okay, so 3 questions. The first big question, Lamor. What's the word Lamor? The second question, why does it say Anochi of Alakecha? Just say Anochi. Third question, why does it say Meretz Mitzrayim, your base of Adam? Just say your base of Adam. Those are the 3 questions. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Now, in order to answer those questions, we're going to go through a whole explanation about Doimein, Sameach, Chai, and Vayidaber, and then we'll come back to answering that. It's about 7 pages in the Immerse, so it's relatively long. We'll try to get through. Okay. The Inyanu. The matter is a Zoyd, Rabbi says. The Inexim, famous pasuk. Pasuk in Mishlei that is also the Dibur Maskell of a number of Maimarim itself. And it's as if the Torah itself is talking in the Ve'eye Etzle Amun. I will be by him Amun. Amun, it's an interesting word. We'll see what that means. Amun is something that you nurture, right? Amun, also the language of Emunah comes from that root. Again, something that's nurtured and grows. An Oman is a tradesman, someone who has a particular expertise at something. Lehit Amen is to practice something. So the Torah says about itself, I am by him being God, Amun. It's okay, so what's that? V'amar Razal. HaTorah Immerse. The Torah says, Ani ayisi klei unasei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I were the vessels of the artistry, artisanship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm the kli, I'm the vessel, I'm the paintbrush, I'm the canvas, I'm the palette, right? Okay, so what does that mean? So Chazal will continue. So that's what the Torah says. I'm by him in Amon. What does that mean? I'm his klei u'nosei. Same word. Right? What does that mean? And it's famous. You've heard this. Chazal before. Ma adrichal. Just like an architect. What's that? This architect. Diftarois u'pinkasois yeshlo. He has, blueprints and other such things, plans. He has blueprints and plans. That based on these plans and based on this blueprint, he builds the building. Kach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so too, and this is the medrash, this is the source of this idea that everybody knows. Kach Kuchabrichu, so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yistakal B'raisu Baram, he looked in the Torah and created the world. In other words, the Torah is the blueprint for creation. Now, why is the Rebbe bringing this? Because he wants to say the following. The Muvan Mizeh, what's understood from this? Shekol in Yonim, Sheyeshnam Ba'olam, everything that exists in the world, Yeshnam Gam B'Torah, also exists in the Torah. That means if I look at the world and I see that there's certain things, then I understand that those certain things also exist in the Torah, because the Rebbe looked in the Torah and created the world. Dal Yedei Zeh, by virtue of the fact, Sheyeshnam B'Torah, by virtue of the fact that they're in the Torah, Therefore, they're drawn down into the world. You and I live in the world, so I see them first in the world. So I'll say that whatever's in the world is in the Torah, but it's really whatever's in the Torah is in the world, because the Torah comes first, so to speak. Right? Also relative to Kadosh Baruch Hu, this whole idea that the philosophers, they make up these words, they love these words. Onomatopoeia. Right? Onomatopoeia means ascribing to God certain human characteristics. Okay, the Torah does that all the time. God speaks, God has a hand, God raises his hand. Okay, so now, God has a hand.
Anthropomorphic.
Oh, what? Anthropomorphic, sorry. I'm sorry. What's onomatopoeia? I don't know what that is. Maybe that's things that sound, okay, whatever. Maybe that's the things that sound the same. Whatever. Okay, I'm sorry. Anthropomorphic. I must be tired, or I'm just losing my brain. Anthropomorphic. I hope it's just tired. Anthropomorphic. Okay. So that means I ascribe to God certain human characteristics. So now that's true, but that's only from our point of view. In truth, the only reason you have a hand is because God has one. It's not that we ascribe a hand to God in order to understand him, that since I have a hand, so then I'll describe him in such a way as if he's doing something that I would do with my hand, so I'll say that that's his hand doing it. Okay, now that's true from our point of view, but in absolute truth, the only reason you have a hand is he has one. Now, his is obviously not physical, right? But we know God has a right and a left. Right? It's called chesed and gvura. Okay, so God has a peh. We don't have a peh. There's a mouth which has a tongue and teeth and palate and larynx and all that. He doesn't have all that. Okay, but he has the ability to speak. Well, what's speech? He doesn't speak. Speech is a physical thing. Well, only down here is speech a physical thing. Up there, it's a godly thing. So what is it up there? Okay, it is whatever it is. So what is it down here? Well, that we know. So what is it down here? It's the revelation of my thought to you. Right? I mean, we're going to see it's much more than that, but the most basic expression of speech is, I'm taking that which was hidden in me and I'm revealing it to you. Okay, that's why we describe creation through Dibur. What does God do? Takes existence, which was shaykh only to him, so to speak, and gives it to us, so to speak. Dibur, so to speak, revealing outside of himself that which was hidden inside him. Now, really by the Eibishter, so then we're still inside him. There isn't anything outside of him. There isn't anything other than him. Okay, we're safe. But he created the apparent existence of something other than him, and that we call speech. So really it all starts with him, and that's what the Rebbe says here. From the fact that it's in the Eibishter, so it comes into the world. The fact that it's in the Torah, it comes into the world. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu looked in the Torah and created the world. Therefore, that means you and I can understand something about the Torah by looking at the world, because I'm going to see things in the world. I can't see everything in the Torah. Why not? Well, because the Torah is hidden to me. Okay, I see the words, right? But the true depth of the Torah, there's certain things, the true the nature of the Torah, I don't know. It's not revealed to me. But how can I know certain aspects of the Torah? Well, if I look around and see what there is down here in Elam Hazeh Gashmi, in this physical world, so then it obviously must be that those states of reality also exist in the Torah. Now, I'll have to be a little more sophisticated and figure out what that means, but they're there. So therefore, if I define the world on 4 different levels as mineral, vegetable, animal, and Vayidaber, so then those 4 levels must exist in Torah also. If they're in the world, they came from Torah, so they must be there. Okay, now we're also going to say in a minute, well, if it's in Torah, it's also in us, because we're one with the Torah. Okay, so there's going to be 3 different levels that we're going to understand: Olam, Adam, Torah, and all of them are going to be understood on the level of Doimen, Sameach, Chai, and Medaber. Mineral, vegetable, animal, Vayidaber. Okay, so really quite astounding what it does here. Let's see if we can finish the paragraph. Dehine ksiv zois hatera adam. It also says zois hatera adam. Right, it says that the name ki yamos ba'oil, right? Beseder talking about tumas mace. Okay, Beseder, but the first three words in the world say in the pasuk say zois hatera adam. In other words, there's a very, very powerful connection between Adam and Torah. Hainu shinyonim yeshnam gam ba'adam. Whatever's in the Torah is also in Adam. Adam hu olam katan, that since a person is a small world, each person is a little microcosmic world. Va'olam hu guf gadol, and the world is just a huge body. Hare kol inyanim sheyeshnam ba'elam, all those aspects which exist in the world, yeshnam ba'adam, they also exist in Adam. So we said Adam is from both sides. This is similar. Zois Torah Adam. Adam is like Torah. And we know also that Adam is Olam Katan. So either way you go, up or down, you see that Adam is the same as the other two. Torah and Adam share also, Torah and Olam share all sorts of characteristics, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu looks in the Torah and creates the world. Adam is similar to both. There's a passage that says Zois Torah Adam, that Adam is like Torah, and we know that an Adam is an Olam Katan. There's a microcosmic Olam, that's called Adam, and there's a macrocosmic Olam, and that's the world at large. Okay, so these three things share certain characteristics. Behind them, the klolos inyanhu, the basic idea is the kol ma sheyesh ba'elam, everything that exists in the world, yesh gam ba'adam, it exists in Adam, u'b'Torah, and in the Torah. Now, why do we start with world? Well, because that's what we see most clearly. Bina. We know ha'olam nechlak l'daled sugim. The world is divided up into four different categories. Daimim, Semeach, Chai, Medaber. That's Cham. You'll often see it written that way. Daimim is mineral life. Daimim literally means silent.
What was it?
Silent.
Silent?
Silent. Doesn't say anything.
Right.
Semeach, vegetable life. Grows. Chai, it's alive. Now, obviously, that means a vegetable isn't. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's not alive. Right? It grows, but it's lacking chai, or else they're the same. Well, they're not. We have to figure out what the difference is. And medaber, which is beyond chai. The suga doimim, this level of doimim, who the loizu bilvad, not only she'in b'chayis, not only does not have life. You can't say a rock is alive. A rock has existence, but it doesn't have life. Ela she'in b'gam nefesh tzamachas. It also doesn't have the soul of growth. Smicha mikatnus legadlus. The growth from something small to something big, which a plant does have. So a plant has something that Daimim doesn't, and what's that called? Smicha. What's smicha? It grows. Now, it doesn't change so much, it just grows. It does grow. V'yesh bay, we're back to Daimim, yesh bay rak nefesh hamahava osei. It only has that level of nefesh. We know the Baal Shem Tov tells us that even Daimim has a nefesh. What's the nefesh? The godly energy powering it. Powering it to what? To just exist. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't grow. Doesn't move. Nothing. Doesn't change. It's just there. But it's there. It has a nefesh. It exists. So what does it have? Yesh rak nefesh. Ha-mehava say that brings it into being. Und was der noch is zi in euch mechaya, that which brings it into being, and then afterwards is that which just keeps it existing. So there's a certain level of nefesh in Daimim, but it's minimal. Just enough for that it exists. Now we're going to see there's a level of nefesh in Avodas Adam. I have a level of nefesh of doimim in Avodas Adam. We'll see what that all is. I will explain all that. Like the Alter Rebbe says, B'shar Yichud Ve'emunah, B'shem Arizal, in the name of the Arizal, the Gamba B'chin, I'm sorry, I said the Baal Shem Tov, the Arizal, the Gamba B'chin is doimim yesh bein nefesh v'chayus. Even in doimim there's nefesh and chayus, but the chayus isn't chayus that penetrates into the thing, it's just that which gives it its existence. Because we'll see, what it really doesn't have is chayus. And we'll see that on a certain level, even Semeach doesn't have chayus. We'll see. Because it's not called chay. L'mayla mizeh, beyond this, who's sugat Semeach, vegetable life. Sheyesh beit smicha v'mikatnus legadlus. It can grow from small to big. Aval ein bei chayus. But it doesn't have real life. The Rebbe is going to explain what's life, hergish. It doesn't feel its own existence. An animal feels its own existence. Right? An animal can move, which is what Semeach can't do. Real movement, Semeach can't do. It can grow taller and taller, but it can't move. Trees in the same place all the time. Unless you're an ant. But that's just an imaginary creature. Right? So it grows, but it doesn't really move, and therefore it doesn't really have chayus. Chayus is something that penetrates into the thing and becomes part of the thing and definitional of the thing. So that's why we'll call an animal chay. Because an animal, what defines the animal? It's alive. Interesting enough, we call it Sameach what? Sameach. What does that mean? It grows. It's not alive, but it grows. Again, of course it's alive. You can talk to a dead, the plants that you bring home and you kill, so they go from being alive to dead. Right? Okay, fine, I get that. And at a certain point, it's dead. It's not happening anymore, this plant. Okay, I get that. That's true. But it's not chai like an animal. That's why we refer to that level of reality as chai. And what's the difference? So the Rebbe hasn't said it here, but he's going to say it the next line, hergish. There's no hergish, there's no feeling. Right? Okay, they say that when you cut the plant, it screams. I don't know, whatever that means. But, right? But, I mean, you look at a plant. It is what it is. It might respond to external stimuli slightly differently depending on, whether you're playing soft music or loud, aggressive music. Okay, fine. But the only thing it does, and this is very different than doimim, the only thing it does is it grows. Well, this will all become much clearer when we discuss this in terms of Avodas Adam. We'll see the distinctions between this. It's very fascinating. Okay. So that's Tzomeach. So the Rebbe says it doesn't have chayas. Chayas means it's margish something. It's alive. It's mamish alive. It's a living being. I wouldn't say that about a plant. No one, harvesting chickens. Well, that's like a little, whoa. Harvesting wheat. What's the problem? You cut it down. The chickens? Okay, so we do sort of harvest chickens, but hopefully we do it in a somewhat humane way, and we're obligated to do it in a humane way. We're not obligated to cut down wheat in a humane way, because it doesn't have any heritage. Why is it called chayas? That's chayas, that vitality, life. And that now is the Rebbe saying, hergish. It has feeling. Now the Rebbe says something really fascinating. A gum seichel. It also has seichel. Now we've talked about this before in terms of the seichel of the nefesh bahamis, which is the ability to come to certain conclusions. It's not that it's not a sophisticated give and take in seichel. That happens in humans, not so much in animals. But there's no question that animals can understand things. It's absolutely clear. And now the Rebbe is going to quote Chazal, Kavasha Amar Chazal, Shual Pikeach Shebechayos. The fox is the smartest of the animals. Really smartest of the animals. Now, usually, what do we say? And that's what's going to be so fascinating here. Usually we say, what's the difference between Chai and Medaber? Seichel. There's this one creature that has seichel. So now it's not that that's not true, because the seichel that we have is obviously very, very unique relative to the seichel that an animal has. But we're going to see the Rebbe doesn't say Medaber is we have seichel. I was going to say something astounding. Medaber is that aspect of us that can go beyond seichel. That aspect of us that's shaykh to seichel, that's chai. Our seichel is more sophisticated than animal seichel. Okay, but it's still seichel. Our seichel can do mathematics and learn Chassidus, and the animal can't. But to say the animal doesn't have seichel is not true. It's really astounding what the Rebbe says. It's a big chiddush. Because generally we say, and when we say something everywhere, that the chiddush of Medaber is seichel. So here the Rebbe is saying, well, on some level, yes, but ultimately, no. Shual, a fox, pikech shebechayos, and kamesha kosev, yoda shor kaineyu. Yeshayahu says the shore knows its master. Yeshayahu, he's yelling at the Jewish people, he said that the ox knows its master and you don't. The ox appreciates who's in charge and you don't. So now those psukim, you can say, oh, well, it's just a metaphor. But Chassidus doesn't take metaphors well. Chassidus learns things that they say what they say. In other words, the fact that we can apply that verb, yada, to a shore, means there's some aspect of yediyah by a shore. At the same yediyah that you and I have? No. Not the same level of knowledge, obviously. But is there a reality called Yediyah by a shore? Well, Yeshayahu Navi thinks so, and he's certainly someone connected to truth. She yeshmem seichel be'inyanehem al kol panim. They have seichel in their things, meaning relative to their lives, there's a reality called seichel. A plant doesn't think about things, an animal does. Therefore, an animal also has hergish. Meaning, the animal will become aware of a certain situation and will have an emotional response to that. I don't think the wheat gets scared when the combine starts driving in the field. The animal gets scared when the hunter shows up with a gun. The dog gets scared when there's thunder and lightning. Why? It's hergish. And that hergish comes from an understanding of the fact that this is unusual. Okay. Let's finish the paragraph. Now, we're going to understand all of this much more as we go through the different levels. It's always hard to understand at the first level, but as you see it's expressed in level after levels, then it becomes easier to understand. L'mayla mizeh, usuga medaber. The speaker. Now, speech generally is an expression of intellect. So why isn't speech intellect? We just said Chai has seichel. So speech is, we're going to say L'mayla min seichel. But speech is just the expression of seichel. See, the Rebbe is going to explain it to us. L'mayla mizahu suga medaber. The ma'alosehu, what's the whole kunz of a medaber? Now the Rebbe says something so amazing. What makes a human being unique, especially a yid, this would be who the Rebbe is talking about. They didn't go beyond seichel. The fact that a Jew is, the fact that a person's smart, big deal. There's lots of stupid, smart people. You think those people in Harvard are stupid? No, they're very smart. They're just idiots. Right? They're stupid, but they're smart. You can't be dumb and get into Harvard. Okay, but they're stupid. No. Why? Because they're completely stuck in seichel and don't use their seichel to understand anything in any sophisticated way. And so they use their seichel to come to some very, very shallow, unsophisticated understanding of something. And in order to express themselves and feel good about themselves, they decide that maybe terrorists are okay. and they do all these weird things on behalf of the poor, suffering Palestinian. Okay, fine. So that's really stupid. But it's all coming from their seichel. But it's coming from their chai. Right? What's real seichel? What's medaber? What's the truest, most powerful expression of a human? The human can transcend seichel. He's limited by seichel. That's emunah. The Indian Zen Mizgala, another Rebbe said something which he is not explaining here, but he will explain. The Indian Zen Mizgala, and this is expressed, Drik Tzechois, this is expressed, Basuga Daimim. The highest level is expressed in the lowest level. Rebbe doesn't explain it here at all. We'll see it very, very clearly when it explains humans. Right? Just simply to, so you'll be able to sleep tonight and you're not tossing and turning, trying to figure out how's the highest level expressed to the lowest level. Well, we did just see it with the Rashbi actually, but the highest level, the level of going beyond Seichel, that level of an essential connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, how is it going to be expressed in Eilam Hazeh? If a Jew were to tap into Etzem HaNefesh, the essence of his soul, the essence of his connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, in Eilam Hazeh, where would it be expressed?
In his nefesh elokis.
But I don't want it expressed in his nefesh elokis. I want it expressed in Eilam Hazeh. How's it going to express it? What's that person? What's going to be the difference between that person and someone who has no connection whatsoever to his nefesh?
Well, you can, as you said, you go beyond
Okay, so how's that express itself?
it's faith.
So he's a Christian, God forbid. It's all faith.
No.
So how does it express itself?
Right, Kaplan.
Person determines action. Doiming. The lowest level. It's all expressed in doiming. It's all expressed by taking things and using them to serve God, physical reality. Now the Rebbe didn't explain it at all. Now he just said it, but then he's going to explain it once he gets into the avoid. He's first going to talk about Adam in terms of these four levels. Then he's going to talk about Adam inside his avoida of Hashem, his avodas Hashem on these four levels. And you're sort of going to have to extrapolate relative to Torah. Boy, big chiddush here, huge chiddush. That